Okay, hey everyone, I'm Keisha White, and I am the founder and creative director at White House Branding Studio. We help businesses create a lead generating digital presence that will help you attract high caliber clients and opportunities. We are currently booking spots for this summer. So if you're interested in transforming your brand and your website, definitely click the link in the description with this video and you can schedule some time to chat and then we can talk about potentially working together. So for today's stream, I am very excited about this topic. I love stories of brands in the real world. So what I'm going to talk about today is pitfalls that brands have run into or that a lot of brands could potentially run into. And I'm going to cover five of them, and then I'm going to use some real world examples of how these things actually manifested in the real world in household name brands, or at least in stories that were just well-known stories, just really make the points hit home. And when it comes to branding, again, to recap what branding means, branding is the overall perception that other people have of your company or your business. It's what they think of when they think about your company. It's the way they would describe your company to somebody else. And it's basically like a reputation that they have, or that your company would have. And so when it comes to maintaining your brand and your reputation, you want to definitely make sure you stay away from these five mistakes. And the consequences of these five mistakes that I'm going to talk about, some consequences could be maybe your brand has a harder time being set apart from the competition. That could be one possible consequence if your brand is like too generic. Another consequence could be maybe you lose the trust of your target clients because maybe they're isn't enough attention paid to certain things in your business. So we're going to talk about these five pitfalls so that way you can avoid them in your business, and you can see some real life examples of what could happen if you don't avoid these things. So the first issue that a lot of brands could run into is called lack of differentiation. And so a lot of times, what people in their companies do, they tend to just do what is popular in their industry. So, like if it's a beauty brand, they tend to maybe make all their branding look just like all the other beauty brands. Or if they're a consulting firm, maybe they just go with the corporate blue, as I call it, and they make their consulting firm look like all the other consulting firms. And one of the issues with this is that your target clients aren't going to understand like what sets your brand apart, and it's going to be very hard for companies to understand like what is unique or what is compelling about you. And then it's going to come down to price. So when you really don't differentiate yourself, people who are looking to buy, they end up just comparing on price because they're like everything looks the same anyway. So I'm just going to pick based on who has the cheapest price. So you definitely don't want to be that generic brand that's afraid to kind of step out of the norm in your industry. It's okay to be a little bit different, and it's okay to go against the grain a little bit. And that is actually a very, very good thing because it's going to help you stand out. And I have an example of brands that I have used, I think two of them actually. And this is, it happens to be in the beauty industry. I love my beauty products. I'm really into the facials, the little bit of makeup, more so facials and skincare. That's my top favorite stuff. But anyway, but these are three beauty brands that all look super, super similar. And they're not differentiating themselves. And I will say the thing that honestly has made me even use some of these brands is because I have a sister who's actually an influencer. And so she told me personally about two of the brands, and that's why I use them. But on the shelf and in the stores, they don't stand out. Like they look nice, but they don't necessarily stand out because they look very similar. So this is a brand called Away. And it has the nice beige everywhere, the sans serif kind of medium weight lines in the logo here, with the logo here, the Away words right there. And there's just a lot of beige, definitely a whole bunch of beige on this page. And then when you compare it to another brand, this is another one that I actually heard about personally through my sister. And that's the only reason why I tried it, because it honestly probably wouldn't have stood out in the store. But it's very beige too. Like as you kind of scroll through, there's maybe a tad bit of color on some of the packaging, but overall it's just very beige. And even the font for the logo looks almost a very similar font to Away on this page as it is on Summer Friday's page. Um, And then the last one, this Ilia, this is a popular skincare makeup brand too, and it's just all beige as well. And then their logo looks almost the same as well. So it looks like, of course, as we know, in the somewhat in the influencer kind of beauty area, the beige look is a bit popular these days. But one of the issues with it is that it doesn't stand out. It just looks like everybody else. And then I don't know about you, but when I'm shopping for stuff and everything looks the same, I don't really know what to pick. And I literally will be in the store just kind of picking based on price. I'm like, I don't know what any of these brands do. And I don't know what's so special about any of them. And so you don't want that to happen to your business. So you want to make sure you uncover what makes you special, what makes you unique. And then don't be afraid to lead with that in the way you may visually brand your business. So you don't have to stick with the industry norm and the colors. And then also when you're brand messaging, like if there's some unique stuff about your brand personality that you want to come through and be exuded in your brand message, don't be afraid to put that in your message, even though maybe your competitors aren't doing it. That's probably a good thing if your competitors aren't doing it, because that's going to help differentiate you. It's going to help set you apart. And then it's going to help your ideal clients resonate with you. And then always remember too, when we are trying to differentiate ourselves, we may be repelling some people, as we all know. And in the branding world, that's okay because you want to draw in the right people. And so that way the right people will be pulled into you and put into your business. And the wrong people will be repelled. Because if you can draw in enough of the right people, they're going to tell a lot of people about you anyway. And then the word will spread about how great it is to work with you or to receive your services. And so you don't have anything to worry about. So don't feel worried that you're going to turn people off or that you are going to stop yourself from attracting everybody if you differentiate yourself, because differentiation is a good thing if you want to position your business as a more elevated option that doesn't have to just compete on price. Because if you're competing on price, it's going to be, as they say, a race to the bottom. Like people are going to be looking like who has the lowest price. And you don't want to put yourself in that lowest price category. You want to put yourself in a valuable, high quality, unique category. So people will be like, okay, this is something unique that I can't get anywhere else that I really resonate with. And I want to go with them. So that's what you want. So definitely don't be afraid to differentiate yourself from your competitors, go against the grain in your industry, and you can build a unique brand that's tailored around what's special about you and your company. And so the second issue that brands a lot of times can run into is neglecting the brand experience or over promising and under delivering. And so branding, of course, again, is not just about the visuals. It's about what is the experience that people are going to have with your brand. So whenever I'm doing a kickoff call with clients, they always talk about how they want their brand to come off to others. And a lot of clients will say they want to be perceived as knowledgeable and as trustworthy, or as like an expert or anything like that. So of course, those are all great ways, great adjectives to kind of throw out there for your brand, but you have to actually live those things as you operate in your business. So that way those things can be felt by your ideal client. So if you want to come off as knowledgeable, what are you doing in your client interactions to make sure it's coming off as like, okay, this is a interaction where your client is really going to learn something new, where they're going to walk away feeling like they were really enlightened about something. Or if you want to say you want your brand to be known for great client satisfaction, what are you going to do to make your process an elevated client experience so that way people will walk away feeling like, okay, this really was something that was a satisfying client experience, and this person really did an excellent job for me. And so one of the worst things you can do is neglect that client experience or neglect that customer service, and then make all these like exaggerated claims that you really can't even fulfill on. And then people end up feeling like they got gypped or that their brand is not living up to its expectations, because that can really tarnish your reputation as a business and as a company. And again, the brand is how other people perceive us. So if they perceive your company as one that is not going to live up to its expectations, or one that is creating like a false story about what they can actually do, like what they're really capable of, or maybe they're just, they may perceive you as a brand that is pretending like they can provide great client service, but when they actually work with you, the service is really bad. You don't want to be in any of those categories, because that's really going to hurt your reputation. And then people are going to be having your brand in that category to be like, don't work with them because they're not going to give you good service or they don't live up to the hype. Like, you do not want to have that. And so that's something that I kind of have experienced a little bit personally, I will say, in the coaching industry. I hate to say it. But a lot of times they tend to really overpromise and underdeliver in a lot of the coaching programs that I have been in. And then the prices tend to be extremely, very, very inflated for what you actually get out of it. And then the outcome is actually not that great. So I saw a story online not too long ago about an influencer who actually, she was sued and she ended up settling the lawsuit. But basically the issue was that clients were saying that she didn't deliver on the fitness plans that customers bought. And what I think they were saying the plans were supposed to be customized to each person. And they were supposed to just be an individualized weight loss plan, but they ended up being like some super generic thing where everybody pretty much got like the same plan. So people felt like she didn't deliver. And then now it's in this whole news story, like all over the place. And people are kind of talking and have now put her in this category now of like, this is somebody who is promising that she's going to deliver some customized, really great fitness plans. I'm going to get fit like her. And then they got in the program and that's not what she delivers. So this girl actually got sued. I wouldn't be shocked, honestly, if it starts happening in the coaching industry because there's a lot of this going on. Oh yeah, because that's what they said. They paid hundreds of dollars for fraudulent personalized workout coaching that wasn't actually personalized. It was just generic. So yeah, and then of course the infamous story of Elizabeth Holmes. I'm sure you've seen that. I watch a lot of documentaries on scam and stuff, but there's the story of the girl Elizabeth Holmes who started the Theranos business, and she was just really inflating what this company was capable of. And she basically was saying she had a new blood testing invention that could test people's blood and do a test with less blood, like a really tiny amount of blood. And it wasn't actually true because it didn't align with the science. And people kind of kept telling her, like, this doesn't align with the science. Like, how is this possible? But she just swore up and down that it was possible. She promised that they were going to figure it out. And they never figured it out. So now, of course, she definitely went to court. I think she actually is going to be facing some jail time soon, the founder of this company. And the company, of course, just completely failed, had to shut down. And it's all because she was overpromising that her blood testing machines could do something that they actually could not do. So you do not want to overpromise and underdeliver at all in anything you do when it comes to your business and your promise of what you can do for your clients or what your services are going to do for clients. Stick with the honesty, stick with the realness and transparency, and make sure you're not overpromising. And then also make sure if one of your values as a brand or as a company is a great client experience, make sure you live up to that and you put the parameters in place so you give clients that great experience, because that's going to help you become known as a brand that is doing it in a great way. People are going to spread the word. And of course, when people spread the word, that's going to boost your reputation as a brand, which is just boosting your overall brand image. And so the third pitfall that some brands can run into is a failure to adapt. So as we all know, things change with technology, things change with the economy, things change with consumers and their needs change over the years. And so one of the things that you must have to do as a company or as a brand is make sure you are adapting and evolving to changing times and customers' expectations. Because if you don't, it could definitely put your brand out of business or put your company out of business. And then it could also make you known as a brand that's just a bit outdated or that's a bit antiquated, that nobody really wants or needs anymore. So it's definitely crucial to make sure you're paying attention to trends. Like, is there a new way that people are doing business in your industry? Or there new tools that people are using? Even the way AI is kind of coming into play now. Like, if there's ways that you can kind of get ahead of the curve and like integrate AI into some of your business offerings, if that's relevant for you, that's even a good thing to kind of stay ahead on. So making sure you're ahead of the trend so you don't get left behind and you're not failing to adapt, and then you end up going out of business, and people know you as a brand that never adapted, and that they don't need anymore. So as we all know, there's a lot of brands that fail to adapt over the years. One of them was definitely Radio Shack for sure. My dad used to love Radio Shack. That was one of his favorite stores when we were growing up. But they definitely went out of business, as we know, a while ago. And I believe it was these different reasons: the too many stores, online competition, like a lot of the stuff they were selling, they started selling online, and they kind of became a bit irrelevant for a lot of customers because they felt like they could get it cheaper and buy it on the internet. And then I think they were selling a lot of cell phones too. And then a lot of the people who were buying cell phones, they ended up buying them from their wireless carriers. So people would, instead of going to Radio Shack to buy a phone, they bought it from Verizon or AT&T or wherever. So they almost became a little obsolete, and they didn't really adapt like they could have to stay in business. So definitely don't want that to happen to your business. And then another company that did that was definitely Polaroid. I'm sure if you're old enough, you remember the Polaroid pictures that people used to print off, like the little snap, the cameras where the picture would come out of the camera, or the printouts of cameras and all of that. So as we all know, they definitely did not last because they underestimated how much the digital photography was going to take off. Like they were thinking that people were still going to still want their printout pictures, and that nobody was really going to be worried about the digital pictures and all of that. But as we all know, pretty much most of all of our pictures now are all digital on our cell phones. People aren't even really using digital cameras often anymore. So they definitely underestimated the trends, and they didn't pay attention to that, and they didn't evolve their brand to meet the current needs that people were, or the current expectations, because people were really, with all the digital stuff, expectations were simply changing, that most camera companies or camera options would give people the option to have their photography in a digital way. And they didn't keep up with the expectations. They didn't provide a way for people to do it digitally. And then they ended up having to go out of business. So you do not want to fail to adapt. So make sure you are staying abreast of trends in your industry, trends in the economy, and even just trends in the overall world. And that can help your business stay competitive and keep your competitive edge as things go along. And then the fourth thing that a lot of brands that could be a pitfall is neglecting your employee brand. So your employees are pretty much a representation of your company. So a lot of times the people who are actually talking to your clients, or who may be responding to customer requests or customer questions, people who are your team members, if anybody that's an interaction with a client or with a customer, they are a part of your brand, and they should be brought up to speed on like what do they need to be doing and how should they be interacting with customers in a way to fit the brand that you want your company to represent. So when you neglect your employee brand, then that can provide inconsistent messaging. Like if you're saying you provide a great client experience and maybe the employees are a bit rude and not as personable, that's going to come off as like, this company actually doesn't provide a great client experience because the team member who I was talking to was really rude to me. So you don't want to give off the wrong impression and steer people the wrong way, making them think that you're not what you say you are. So you want to make sure all of your employees are fully up to speed on exactly how to interact with clients, on how to serve clients. So that way the brand is coming out in a positive way that you want it the brand is coming across in a positive way, an intentional way, through your employees that are going to be interacting with customers or with clients. And I have a couple of examples for this too. As we all, I'm sure, heard about this story a few years ago about the two Black men who were arrested in Starbucks, and they ended up having to do this whole apology on behalf of the employees. And I believe they ended up doing all this like diversity training and stuff too, or I might be mistaken on that part, but I just know it definitely was a negative tarnish on the Starbucks brand, because they do try to kind of act like they're so inclusive and all this kind of good stuff. But when they had those employees kind of taking things too far with getting with the arrest of two Black men who were just sitting in the Starbucks. I think one was like waiting for somebody to meet him there or something like that. And so they took it too far. They had to end up getting up and apologizing. There was this whole boycott Starbucks hashtag trending on Twitter. So this was really bad for the reputation, and the employees were definitely in that situation. Were definitely not doing a good job at representing the Starbucks brand and allowing that to come across in the right way to consumers. So you want to make sure your employees are trained to know, like, okay, this is how we need to treat everybody. This is the kind of service we need to provide. These are the steps we need to follow with each person. And so this way, the brand is staying consistent in the way that people are interacting with your employees too. And then I have one quick example on a company that does this well. As we all know, if you are in, I know definitely if you're in the South, I'm not sure how much they've branched out across the country yet. Well, they want me to have access. But anyway, but as we all know, Chick-fil-A does a great job at their employee branding, like at pretty much every Chick-fil-A I have been to, no matter what part of town I'm on, they always do a really, really good job. They're trying to get me to access this site with the account. But anyway, but their customer service is always excellent. They always do the whole "it's my pleasure" thing. They're very kind and stuff if they mess up orders and different things like that. So they do an excellent job of whatever they do to train their employees to make sure the employees are representing the brand properly. They do a really good job at that, and it's very consistent across all of their stores. And people literally know them. It's like, oh, the Chick-fil-A employees are so nice. They do such a good job. I never have to worry about bad service at Chick-fil-A. Like, that's their reputation as a company. And so that's essentially what a brand is. Like, it's your reputation. And they've done a good job with their employees to make sure they have a positive reputation out there as a company. And then the fifth possible pitfall that companies could possibly run into is a lack of brand authenticity. So people today definitely want brands to be feeling very personable, very approachable, especially if it's a B2C business to consumer brand, and a little bit B2B too. B2B is kind of a different sales process. But anyway, but people definitely want a brand to come off as authentic, transparent, like something that is not fake, I guess, or inauthentic. Because when a brand comes across as fake and inauthentic, that can definitely harm their reputation in a negative way, and people will be talking about the brand in a negative way. And so I have a couple of examples on this. There was a whole like documentary about Abercrombie on Netflix last year, I believe. I love a business documentary. But they had to go through this whole rebranding process, as we all know, because in the beginning, Abercrombie was like very kind of just pretentious and just for like skinny blondes and just a certain type of look, just this very preppy, like you had to have a certain look to work there. You had to have a certain look to for them to want to target you and sell you their clothes and just all of that stuff. And they went through, a lot of people just kind of came out and spoke against them, like employees did, and all of that. And they ended up having to apologize for their actions on how they did with employees, and what they did to kind of be very they were just very not inclusive, really. And so with now, like a lot of the younger generation now, like Gen Z, they definitely value inclusivity in branding and in companies. And so they definitely had to revamp their whole approach on their brand and their marketing to be a lot more inclusive. So now they have imagery now that is inclusive of everybody. And I do know even on their website now, different sizes, they have expanded their sizes a lot to fit different body types. So they're not exclusionary with like just skinny, super skinny blondes anymore. And then they've even put out a message or focus on inclusivity now. Because that whole way they were branding before was just definitely a turnoff to a lot of millennials and Gen Z. And so they were going to have a hard time, honestly, keeping up in today's world if they were going to continue along that path of like that a brand that really excluded a lot of people. They were going to have a hard time competing in today's world with that type of branding. So they did a whole revamp. And from what I hear so far, it's been pretty successful for them so far. And then there was one more in this course coaching industry. I am somewhat of a whistleblower in this in this industry. I wish I could be. I don't really want to call people out by name like that, but as I see stories in the news, I don't know these people particularly, but it's kind of interesting to see more stories coming out because I could see more coming. But this particular one was a influencer and coach. And so they basically had some kind of online course. Like, as we all know, online courses in this consulting coaching space, a lot of people have offered online courses. But one of their issues, they basically were selling one course, and then the whole goal of it was to get people to progressively buy more and more and more expensive courses. And it was supposed to be something from this life coach who had these self-help programs, and he even had some celebrities in there somehow. I don't know how he got them in there. So pretty much the issue was that it was an introductory course. Some people paid as much as $40,000 for courses that promised one-on-one coaching and access to an investment tool. But the investigator said that the courses did little beyond explaining the basics of real estate investing and were designed to upsell students on more expensive classes. So this is a real lack of inauthenticity because they were selling this as like, this is the answer that you need to get into the real estate business. But basically, they were hardly giving them any answers at all once they made their purchase. And then they were encouraging them to make more purchases and more purchases on top of what they already spent to get what they thought they were paying for in the first place. So this was very inauthentic and very deceptive. And they ended up being hit with fines, some hefty fines. I'm not sure how much the fines were, but yeah, they definitely got fined by the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, because they were just doing some deceptive, inauthentic marketing. And I don't think that's a good business model anyway, to have to make people to somewhat like, promise people that they're getting one thing and then to make them continue to buy more and more and more to get the actual answer. That's, to me, a terrible business model. But if they were going to do that, at the least they could have done is to just be transparent and to just be like, okay, this is the introductory course. If you want more, we have course 2 and course 3 available, instead of having people buy the introductory course and then them not realizing it until after they were already in there, and then kind of like surprising them with all the extra stuff that they had to buy later. Like, that's not a good brand reputation to have because people are going to remember them. It's like, oh, don't buy any courses from them because none of the courses or trainings are going to get you the answers. You're going to have to progressively spend more and more money to get the answers that you want. So if your company, whatever you offer, whether it's a service or it's a course or it's a training, you want to be as authentic as possible in what people actually get. You want to make sure your marketing is done in a way that's going to appeal to the right clients and come off as very authentic. So that way it's going to help your brand resonate with the right people. It'll help make sure people are seeing you as an honest, transparent, trustworthy company to work with. And this is going to be best for a long-term good brand reputation. So hopefully those were helpful for you. I am a big fan of stories in the in the news of brands who maybe did things wrong. It's very interesting to me. I watch a lot of documentaries and stuff on whether it's Netflix or YouTube and stuff like that. So I always love to kind of watch and learn lessons from what other brands are doing and be like, they dropped the ball there. Like, if I was in that situation, I would have did X, Y, Z. Because you can learn from a lot of other people's mistakes, even though some of these mistakes, I'm like, you have to be kind of a little crazy to want to make a big mistake like that and deceive that many people. But still, you can definitely learn a lot by observing other brands and what they have done over time, and then kind of use that information to say, like, in my business, I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to stay true to my brand values. I'm going to make sure my brand lives those values and how we interact with our customers. And we're going to create a strong foundation for ourselves. So I hope that was helpful. If you want to work together for branding and website design, I conduct a brand strategy session in the beginning with all clients before we get into brand identity design. And during the strategy session, we talk about what makes your business unique, what makes you different. And then we use that information to pretty much give you some information to help you position your business in your market in a way that's going to resonate with your target clients and that's going to make you stand out. And then those insights are going to be insights that you can use to develop your marketing plan as you move forward in marketing your business. And then I use those insights to develop your visual brand. So then I designed the brand identity and then your website design based on those insights. So that way you have a nice standout brand that is competitive in your industry. So if you want to work together on the branding and website piece and develop your brand strategy and all of that, make sure you click the link in the description with this video and you can get all the details on my design process. I am currently getting booking spots for the summertime. So yes, you can get all the details on that at the link in the description. And then I will chat with you through a free strategy session and we can map out a game plan for your brand and your business. So thanks so much for checking out the video and I will see you in the next one. Bye.